me, Dan McGinnis, Mark Pingatore, Eric Squadroni, Bruce Boyd. Bruce, I know Mark got connected with Bruce. He was in Jersey. He was going to school at Philadelphia College of Art. So I think they had like a little something going on, Mark and Bruce at the time. And me and Eric had something going on here in Oxford Circle. And we were all going to shows together. So there was a little band with me and Eric. There was a little band with like Mark and Dan, and then Bruce got pulled in. We were on the L one night going to a show, probably CE Center. And then we just hit it off and talked about practicing, and got each little unit, each band that was sitting there at the time. I think me and Eric had a band called Crusade, and Dan was in that as well. We took a couple tracks that we wrote from that. Mark had a couple tracks from the band that he was messing with at the time, little jam thing that he was doing, and then that's how Pagan Babies jumped off from there. Great shows every weekend, mostly in West Philly. CE Center. We had there was so many great spots. Even back when, you know, at the time, I think maybe Long March might have been 84, maybe 85, but 86 was, I guess, a great bands, great bills. Every weekend we were at it, like Abe's Steak Shop out in West Philly. The Crypt was out there as well. That was like basically the basement of somebody's place, and we see everybody out there every weekend. It was Crucifix or RKL, and it was, you know. Yeah, I don't know. I know that's like more like an American hardcore thing. That's tough because I never went to Boston. I mean, like I saw Boston bands when they came down, New York bands when they came down. But I don't know if we had one band, I guess, that had such national exposure that. I guess that's what it was all about. We didn't have that one band, but to say that there wasn't, you know, I'm not saying there was no scene here, because it was massive. You know, it had tons of support. So I think there was like some upgrade to that. Like I don't know if there was a second edition to American Hardcore, and there was a little more. There was a Philly section to it, I guess, to appease the people that were offended by it. But I mean, all you have to do is talk to the people that are around. I mean, hell, even the shows that, you know, my current band plays, it's the same people that were hanging out back in the 80s. You know, they're still, well, everyone's still down and everyone still raps with each other and all that. But we had shows every weekend. Every weekend there was big bands that came through all the time. Black Flag was through, you know, Dead Kennedys, and they were playing gigs for guys who would just put on similar shows with just local bands. So it was, you know, those guys were really well connected. And by the time I got out of college, I had a bill to pay. I ended up taking a job with the Postal Service, which kind of like I never really envisioned. When we went out to the West Coast, I really dug playing out there, but I really didn't see myself doing that. You know what I mean? I don't know. You know, just it wasn't my thing to travel. But I think that, you know, we were on the same label with Token Entry at the time, and there was a lot of strong bands on there I think we could have moved around with and got pretty good exposure. But I don't remember any big label really at the time. I don't know how many real big bands were getting signed then, you know what I mean, to big things. I guess some of the bands out of New York were, but I had bills to pay, and then it didn't stop the band from playing, but it stopped the band from having long, like going out on the road for months at a time. You know what I mean? But you know, my favorite when I talk to non-punks about, because they're all, you know, I just call them civilians. But like they'll go, oh man, you know, it's so wild what you do, because they'll come out and see the band play and they'll like it, well, you know. But a lot of times I'll tell them, you know, I was at a show. It was Murphy's Law down at Club Pizzazz, and this kind of even relates to some of the violence you're talking about, because there was one guy in the pit who was, you know, Murphy's Law would kick into a track, and the song would end, and somebody would jump up on the stage and complain that like somebody hit him with mace. because you know, so they're in this pit, and I was at the soundboard with this guy Tewa.
Okay.
You know, he was doing the sound,
There he is.
and I'm up on the table with him. So I kind of had a perch view of this whole thing. So they get done a song, the guy comes up and he's wiping his eyes, and he's like, somebody just hit me with mace. And he's screaming in the microphone, like pissed off. And the guy's like, man, relax. All right, so he goes back in. A new song starts up, it gets all crazy and wild. Song ends, and here comes another person rubbing her eyes and like, oh my God, who's the fucking asshole with the mace, you know? And you know, I'm sitting there, I'm like, you can't get somebody in there spraying fucking mace, you know? So it's like, song ends, third song. So the song's over. Another guy, third time, guy jumps up there, he goes, look man, whatever the fuck that is, can somebody stop, somebody, and there's, you know, now there's all these people just rubbing their eyes, right? So, song ends, they start the next one up, and you see this, and that place was packed, like, because as you could probably easily do 300 people in that place, and they would get it, they would get, you know, Chuck me and did a bunch of shows there, and they always did really well in there. So you know, I'm on a little bit of a riser back on the soundboard, and I see this opening start, like a parting of the Red Seas. It's just, this dude's just hauling ass, running out of this pit, and he's got like about 5 fucking dudes chasing him. So there was off to the right, his left, as he's running out, you could see there's an exit, but if you miss the exit, you could overshoot the exit and think that if you weren't familiar with the terrain, you could overshoot it and end up in this corner where there was nothing. It was just a corner, and that's what the dude did. He took the hell off, and he had his way of getting the hell out of there. He missed it. He kept going around this corner, and it just dead ends. And it was just, yeah, man. It was like, I mean, it was funny as hell. You know, fucking Murphy's Law. But yeah, it didn't end well.
What was the reason? They say the reason why he was spraying?
I think it's like what you're talking about. I think you get like you get these people like, or what you're mentioning about the violence. You get people down there and they just, something just makes them want to do fucked up shit. You know what I mean? Like they instead of, and that's just these. There's little pieces. It's probably just like it's just human nature. You know, you're going to get 100 people and 2 of them are going to be fucking trying to set shit off. Yeah, we're just sitting here chatting and talking about the Exploited show at City Gardens. Exploited, Pagan Babies, Uprise. There was one other band on the bill, I don't remember. But what ended up happening, you know, and there's video, we have video footage of this because we filmed the show. So Pagan Babies have their own documentary, so to speak, and it's evident on there, and it's very clear that shit was heated. Because it was, I mean, I got a kick out of it. So we're sitting on, they had a stage left there was a little perch. There was a spot where, you know, the photographers took their pictures of the bands. Bands could hang out up in this little room. So you could shoot pretty much right, and it's right down the stage. But I remember Waddy, like, you could tell things were in a bad way because he's doing his thing, they're doing exploited songs, and there's like a group of guys in the front kind of like throwing shit, and then you see spit and da-da-da-da-da coming up, and he's kind of, you know, doing his thing, and he had, you know, his whole shtick when he was singing. And at one point this dude jumped up on the stage and kind of grabbed him, and then dove back off. But when their roadie came up to kind of make sure this dude wasn't getting fucked up, Waddy wasn't getting fucked up, he got sucked in like Jaws. Like they pulled his legs out from under him, and he was like freaking going into the crowd like fucking like this, right? So anyway, they do their set, and it was kind of like that was going on, a lot of craziness in front of the stage with him. There was a fanzine, a real good fanzine back then called Threatening Society. I think Mickey Lynch was involved in that. Dude's really well connected in the scene. And we were out in the parking lot talking about Pagan Baby stuff, you know, doing a little interview with the fanzine. So we're in the van, I'm talking to him, and he goes, oh wow, look at that. And you look over, and the Exploited were traveling the country in like a camper. And it was just like people just fucking beating the shit out of this thing. And you know, you're the whole time, and the guy here is interviewing me about Pagan baby stuff, and then he's peeking down here going, what do you think of that? And I went, you know, man, that fucking blows, man, because it was just there's a brick, there go the tires, you know, and then at some point, although I didn't see them tip it over, I heard they tipped it over as well. But I mean, it was in no condition to be moved. Even if they didn't tip it the fuck over, they weren't going to move it. But yeah, it was one of them shows where you're like, holy shit, it sucked to be fucking exploited that night, you know. But
Funny.
the other thing I wanted to bring up was the best Pagan baby show ever.
The one I played, motherfucker.
That was pretty damn good. Every summer we went to Wildwood. Fucking had a room with these guys. And me, Mark, and Dan, and Eric used to, which was really a whole nother issue in itself, like sleeping in the same fucking apartment. So we'd be in there, and the time they worked this place called Mountain Magic Leather, they had a store at 23rd and the Boardwalk. So are you familiar with how the Boardwalk
Wildwood?
looks in Wildwood? Okay, well they got a tram car, and it goes, you know, you never hear anybody say, watch the tram car please, that whole thing. So it comes from Wildwood, from them tram cars going back and forth. So the owner of Mountain Magic Leather had a brainstorm. She goes, well, I'm gonna have the Pagan babies up here, and they can play in the store, and you know, maybe bring some customers in. It was whatever the whole thing was. So you know, we start getting into a set, and it's loaded up with people, and they start a circle pit at this thing. You know what I mean? So we're sitting there like wow, and I'm like kind of like barely seeing, but I could see just enough out I could see the ocean, I could see the boardwalk out the front of the store, and there, you know, there's this pit going on, and you can see the fucking tram car fucking stopped. This tram car can't get through because there's this swirling fucking circle pit. And all you hear is, like, you hear the
tram car.
You hear the fucking song stop, and you hear, watch the tram car, please. Watch the tram car, please. These fucking dudes, and they weren't moving, man. And we would only stop for maybe, about 3 seconds and fucking jump right into another track. But, and the place got I think the place got fucking banged up. It wasn't a good idea. Everyone was stealing shit. But it was killer, you know what I mean? It was like now I go down here with my kids, and I'm walking past 23rd Street going, you know, I fucking actually played right on this fucking spot, you know what I mean? Which is about as rare as you're going to get, you know what I mean? Like, you know, where you play at, you know, most of the time it's clubs, so you remember that one specific time it wasn't, you know what I mean? So,
Awesome.
good times.
All right, brother.